Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Century's Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. DB.
Ravi.
What's going on?
I'm just trying to make it.
How was your night?
It was pretty quiet, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was quiet.
Watching a little football?
Watched a lot of football. Spent a little time in the kitchen.
Did you make your chicken?
I did. It wasn't, I didn't go with the chicken chili. That is still in the brine.
Okay.
Went with my version of Kung Pao Chicken. Basically, it was just Asian thighs.
Just Asian chicken?
And I had some leftover rice and hooked that up.
Yeah?
Made the boys fried rice. I had the thighs. It was legit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I deboned and de-skinned the thighs.
Okay.
And I took all the skin and I seasoned it, dried it, and baked it in the oven. And I got some snakes. Some chicken skins.
Oh. Is that a thing that you eat just like normal? Just like a chip?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like extortion if you ever go to like online.
Yeah, and try and get them.
Like Flock or something like that, where they like sell chicken skins.
Are they kind of like pork rinds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except these are just like 100%. There's no
like extras.
No extras.
Okay.
No breading, no nothing, and so it's good. Just a little bit of, just a smidge of a little melted bacon up. Pour it over. Stretch them out. Rack them.
Here's $1 million question though.
Yeah. I could take the skin off and take a bone out of a chicken thigh, and really, really quick now.
Did you put cheese on top of your Kung Pao chicken?
I did not.
Okay, good.
I did not. I was trying to eat to get done last night.
Okay.
I wasn't really hungry. I've been getting these headaches. I don't know. Anyway, I wasn't like super hungry, so I was just trying to eat to get through it.
Okay.
I don't know how much I enjoyed it. Well, it is good though, and because I've only been eating thighs for about 3 or 4 years.
They do taste better.
Debatable,
I think.
Yeah, I mean it's debatable. It just depends on how it's being prepared.
That is a factor.
It's just I went to Amazon yesterday and I just was looking for like snacks and stuff. I'm like, man, I could do these. Caleb, he was in the kitchen with me. Just me and him yesterday, doing like, he's watching me because he had just gotten back with Coach Frank, and we were doing this whole price per pound thing. It's like, man, that looks like a lot of work, and I'm just like, this is like $2 a pound cheaper. He's like, man, if you only spend $20, it's 40% off. That's a lot for just a little bit of a number. I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, he's been around Coach Frank too long. Finances. No, but he's right, though, right? Because
maybe he's just trying to figure out how to use that Ivy gift card.
Boneless, skinless, he's chomping at the bit to take an air fryer back with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his Ivy bucks. Because he's already to the point where he thinks food at the stadium is overrated. I told you. Remember, like, he was like, oh, man, this is awesome. You can make it. I'm like, remember, all these visits we went to, you were wondering why those guys took their food or took the box and left.
Yeah.
It gets old.
I feel that.
It gets old. And no, but it was good, man. Talked to the boneless, skinless were almost $2 a pound more than none.
It's because they're doing that work for you.
Yeah.
It's the price of convenience.
Surprise. The first thing I figured that out with was cue the jokes. Watermelon.
Like the pre-sliced versus the whole?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And pineapple. So I have 2 huge fruit eaters.
Yeah?
Oh, Zoe inhales fruit. And so does Caleb.
There you go. Micah, not so much?
No.
Is he like you, no fruits, no veggies?
Well, I love fruit. I just don't
no
eat
veggies.
It. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I love I could live off of fruit. Fruit, meat, and cheese, I'd be straight.
Not all together.
No, but it would be.
Because you don't like sweet meat.
It would be my dessert.
That's fair.
But I do need it. I need it cold. I burnt up poop out of my thumb.
Can I ask your professional opinion on something?
That's taking a rack out of the oven.
Dude, you should see, like, I didn't realize this until I met my wife, that, like, chefs just have burns on them all the time.
Yeah, I'm terrible.
All the time.
I'm terrible.
She'll just come home, there'll be, like, one on the arm. I was like, people probably think I got terrible to you.
I got pans. I got bacon.
Yeah.
That's bacon.
And
look at that bad boy.
Because she'll, like, if something is starting to slip, she'll catch it instead of.
And sometimes
because the food waste is a bigger problem.
Like I flip meat, like especially like on the
just barehanded.
I'll barehand it.
Yeah.
But I got some gloves from Coach Williams, some cooking gloves. He gave me a whole sweet box.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, jokers are nails. So yeah, that's what I talked to Jason for a while. Peter, we're gonna bring him on early next week, Monday or Tuesday.
JP.
Yeah, just he's got family that's in the business, transactional business in sports. Type of players, these different defensive fronts, like what we would look for now to play good defense in college football, and he's very interesting. He was down in Miami with Vrzal.
Oh yeah,
which is funny because Damon, his little brother, was with him for the first game, and then for the first round of the playoffs, and then
Jason's down there.
Yeah, and apparently my guys let him down because there was going to be kind of a reuniting, like Wisham and those guys were going to go down because they're all close with DJ from the Lazari days. And Jason's the only one that made it. It's like,
shoot.
It's like, man, F those guys.
At least they got to go see a good ball game.
Yeah, and it was interesting, man. A lot of – so you have to be careful. And I hate to be this guy.
Got to be careful here.
Well, when people just read things off the internet that are happening real time in the game without actually watching the game, people will say a lot of weird things, and then
like what?
People will consume it and pawn it off as like the degree of physicality didn't really change from the first half to the second half.
No,
Notre Dame had the initial drive. Penn State was still controlling the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Basically the whole game. One more sack in the second half than they had in the first half. Abdul Carter and those guys were still unblockable. Notre Dame had the initial drive. The real difference, if you're like just watching that game, was Notre Dame started to win one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And could not, and Penn State couldn't get them off the field on third down. It wasn't like some all of a sudden trench flip.
They made 8 of 9.
Notre Dame still only ran the ball for less than 3 yards a carry, and they let you know that the only way that they were going to run the ball was with the extra lead back and going to QB run game. Like when all else fails, hand the ball to Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Right, but what he was accurate enough. I mean, throwing to a guy when a DB falls down, you got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of tough window throws that he made. That Drew just didn't make.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like this physical formation flip. It was Notre Dame one-on-ones. They offensively, they won't get enough credit for their play designs because their wide receiver, Greathouse and Faison, shouldn't collectively be as good as Penn State's outside guys.
Yeah.
Just couldn't win. So for all Kolonicki's creativity,
which got him a handful of times.
The inability to win on the perimeter. And we asked our guy. I just had a feeling. Okay, if it's not Warren, who else is going to make a play for Penn State? Like that was a question that I asked on Tuesday, right?
And how many receptions did their receivers end up with?
I believe Sautter.
Yeah, I believe they got goose egg there.
I wasn't concerned because I don't have my heart rides with Notre Dame, obviously, but I just didn't. I'm like, Notre Dame's secondary is pretty good.
Well, it's the same thing I asked last week, right? I go, okay, is it like
I just love the whole people because they read it on Twitter. Oh man, the physicality really changed. Not really.
No, I thought it felt the same the same.
Not
way.
really. Outside of that initial drive where Notre Dame answered, it was still about what it was. It was. I just couldn't believe how Notre Dame couldn't get, or Penn State couldn't get Notre Dame off the field on third down.
Yeah, they went, I think, 8 of their last 9, or they might have missed one late after that, so it might have ended up being 8 of 10. But they hit a groove there late third or midway through the third through the fourth.
Did you watch the little short motions, the little rub routes? Conversely, Penn State tried to do the same thing on third down, and McElroy did a good job. He's like, hey, I'd get the ball to Warren. Circled Warren. He goes in motion, gets the little bunch route. Notre Dame's DBs, their secondary, passed that little rub route off so well. And Drew just didn't want to let it go. Yeah. Right? Sometimes that was the game where you had to throw, again, short of Greathouse making a DB fall down. That was a game where you're going to
have to make tight throws.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another one to Greathouse earlier where
the one on the sideline?
Yeah, where Leonard gets hit.
That's a tough throw.
That's a big boy throw.
That's a tough throw.
And a really good catch.
And he made that throw, and I felt like
there's not a lot of places to put that ball.
For as statistically average is because that wasn't Leonard's best game throwing the ball, but he did play well when he needed to, which was late. Right? He overcame the pick, which, by the way, that play won't get near enough run for how good it was.
On the defensive ends?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean.
So he just never saw him?
No.
Yeah.
Because
he didn't expect him. You don't expect a defensive end.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, and you don't think he can make that play either. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that corner wasn't going to probably step in front of that. It's an ill-advised throw.
Right.
But the play that he made was sensational.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm just like, but he's kind of unflappable.
Yeah. He's not. I don't think he's that good.
There's something about him, man.
But he is unflappable. Like that's.
I just, and I'm riding with those guys.
Yeah.
Because I know those guys will win me more games than they'll lose.
For sure.
I'll take the dude. I'm going to take the guy or gal that'll just hang in there regardless of how it looks. Because if you play harder longer, you almost always win. Because nobody wants to play hard very long anymore.
For sure. Like it is most people don't want to go to the deep waters, right? And I don't mean that as, I know it's going to sound like an insult to Riley Leonard no matter how I phrase this. I don't know how actually good he is, but he is unflappable. And he is a guy where it seems like when you absolutely have to have it, you'll get it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like, long term, but right now with the way this Notre Dame team is put together, it works.
Do you know how many sacks Notre Dame gave up?
3?
5.
Okay.
Penn State had 5 sacks. Do you know how many tackles for losses Notre Dame had?
Not that many.
2.
Yeah. Because they just had the 1 sack on the day, right?
Do you know how many yards per carry Notre Dame ran for? It
was less than 3.5.
Less than 3.
Okay.
The line of scrimmage didn't flip.
No.
Playmakers making plays was the difference.
Kind of funny because that's one of the biggest things with Notre Dame that we're like, I don't know if they've got guys.
They just did.
That'll win on the outside, right? That's been their bugaboo.
Yeah. When Penn State's not up more at the half, winning the turnover margin and the rushing.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point did you think Allen and Singleton were going to be slowed down?
Never.
Right.
Ever. Even in the second half.
The fourth quarter when they got the ball, they're like, oh, they can just run the ball.
Yeah. It never felt like those two were getting slowed down even a little bit.
I love, and it was ominous foreshadowing. And I'm a Freeman honk. We've been here before. We just have to hang in there. I just was like, it sounds so, well, no bleep.
So,
but I love resolve. I love resolve.
I think there's a, because you were talking about Penn State being up, should have been up more in the first half, right?
Yeah.
Like Penn State whipped them in the first half.
Yeah.
That probably needs to be a minimum 3-score game in the first half based on how the actual play went, right? But when, was it Angeli?
Yeah.
Comes in.
And they couldn't push and they got points out of that? That was crazy.
Yes, that was crazy because he was under duress a lot.
He just was ripping that thing.
And I was going to say, I come in there and I was like, that guy's a better passer than Leonard.
Oh, no question.
I was like, this dude is spinning
And
it.
just hearing all the behind-the-scenes stories all year about how that quarterback situation has been handled, you give Franklin some credit for, and that offensive staff for keeping that thing together. Because, and Jelly, to the best of my knowledge, pretty good information, has not been a happy camper.
Dude, that dude can just spin it.
Yeah.
And he comes in here and I go, okay.
He's highly touted.
First of all, that guy's definitely a better thrower than Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Second, how about the Stones in that situation where you kind of know, hey, if we don't get points here, we might be in trouble.
Yeah. Back to that whole controlling the line of scrimmage and physicality thing.
Yeah.
Who ran the ball more? Notre Dame, Penn State. Carries.
I would say carries was Notre Dame.
Exact same, 42.
Okay.
Does that surprise you?
It felt like Notre Dame ran it more. It felt like Penn State was more successful at running.
Which is almost right, because Penn State goes for 2.8 a carry, 42 for 116 net.
For Penn State?
Notre Dame.
For Notre Dame, okay.
They net 116.
Yeah. That was one of those we're running it whether we're good at it or not.
I was like, what? And
although the sacks are in there, so that.
Yeah. But that's part of the line of scrimmage,
right.
And conversely, Penn State runs it 42 for 204.
Yeah, that's what it was, almost just right about 5. 4.8, somewhere like that.
And took the L because in critical junctures, you just couldn't make the right play.
Yeah. I also, it feels like Drew Aller and Riley Leonard are the exact opposite quarterbacks.
You think eventually Drew's going to make a mistake and Leonard will make a play?
Yeah, like I think Drew is going to sit there all game and look good and look better and make the throws.
What I thought was unfair was I heard a lot of Drew's terrible.
He's not terrible.
He's not.
He's not terrible. I think he's a guy that I don't trust.
So I went to multiple casts. I wanted to see what he was seeing. The one that I like the least to get that vantage point was Skycast. But Skycast would give you the speed of the game and the interior.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could see if a guy was in a one technique or a three. So some of those things I like. But that's how I rather watch. Like if I was going to have to scheme like an offense, I'd rather watch it that way. Mm-hmm. But if I have to go big picture, I want to back out some.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see what Drew is seeing, and I think it's one of those things that with quarterbacks, if you're waiting for a guy to come open and you won't throw the ball, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to throw before the guy's open.
And you have to trust that they are going to come open. Like
that they're going to make the right.
Leonard made some plays to his wide receivers and tight end in particular, where those guys aren't what I would call open.
Yeah. But you got to trust them.
You trusted them.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's especially on some of those kind of intermediate timing routes which is where the pick came, right? Where you have to trust that your guy is going to cut in front of the defender instead of behind the defender.
Yeah, X's and O's. He sent me a great one because somebody was breaking it down on film on Drew's pick, and what I have thrown it to Warren. And from the back foot hitting to where Warren turned, probably, but I don't fault him for not.
The only thing I think you could question on him there is, hey, if you trust anyone, it should be Warren. Like if you're gonna take the chance on anyone, it better be Warren.
No, I hear you.
Right? Like that's from a pure read standpoint, you're right. It's probably throw it there, but you can understand the other one, right?
Yeah, I'll tweet it out just to give you because I think it's hard when you take a still.
It's really hard to tell where people are.
It's hard.
And what the process is, right?
But I do get the vantage point.
The only other thing I'll say about Aller, because I don't think he's terrible by any means. Yeah. You don't put up those numbers and be terrible, right?
Hopefully
over the course of the season.
Husker X's knows. Hopefully you don't mind if I screenshot this.
But I will say he was not as good in that game as his numbers will lead you to believe until that point.
Yeah.
Because first of all, the second interception in particular that got called back.
Yeah.
That's a terrible throw and a terrible decision.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That guy's triple covered.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be a rule in football where it's like, hey, you don't get rewarded for underthrowing a guy by 7 yards. It feels like
a penguin.
I feel like a penguin. No, it feels like, when James Harden was doing that like swoop through move all the time and getting 3 free throws for it.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. And the NBA is like, hey, this is terrible for our game. Nobody likes this. And,
let's do it anyway.
And then they were like, let's stop doing it because Warren had a 0% chance of catching that football.
No, I get it. But I think you see some of the hand wringing from Penn State fans because for a little old radio station in Nebraska, I think we talk about Penn State's quarterback play over the last couple of years more than anyone.
Maybe, yeah.
Right, where you have to get inside the stats, and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Like, I don't totally trust the numbers from last year.
But it's but that's why.
Yes.
Like what you saw last night. Now, and here's the thing we always ask our guys from up there in the Alleghenies is, how much of that is on the wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, should those guys be better?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a fair question. It is a fair question.
But I told you, those secondary, like Notre Dame secondary, X gets a lot of the burn.
But the whole secondary is really good.
The whole secondary and how Golden has them playing on strings is fantastic.
Really, really good.
I mean, they're physical in like the perimeter run game. They're good in the halves. They're good in disguise. I thought Penn State got a little too flat-foot playing man. All I could see pre-snap, they did the same thing.
What have I asked?
2x2 motion rub. 2x2 motion rub. They did it a variety of ways. And sometimes I feel like Penn State's communication, it reminded me of watching the Steelers trying to get lined up against the Ravens a couple weeks ago. It is anarchy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God, you guys are playing with a 1 and a 7 technique. I'm pretty sure Ravens are going to be able to run the ball, right? Yeah. They just couldn't get lined up right. I feel like that caught up with Penn State a little bit.
Well, I've asked the same thing of everybody we've talked to when they're playing Notre Dame. Can the outside receivers match up with Notre Dame secondary?
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm rolling with Notre Dame secondary against just about everybody.
Yeah. But you would agree Penn State was better than national people thought.
Oh, yeah.
Penn State, they're pretty good.
They're better than I thought.
They're pretty good.
Like a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, they're better than I thought.
Yeah.
Jesse, hold on here. We'll get to you in the next segment. That's DB. I'm Ravi. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here from the Pillar Exterior stage. If you're on your way to work, make sure you are focused with your eyes straight ahead. That is your job as the driver to drive. Make sure you are focused. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. DB.
Yes, sir.
Let's get to our friend Jesse here.
Jesse?
We want to talk a little Penn State here. What's going on, Jesse?
Talk a little Notre Dame, not Penn State.
That's Shane's fault. Come on, Shane.
I know who your boys are.
Come on, Shane. What's up, Jesse?
What's up, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys talked about Angeli.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the game. That drive is, it's 3 points. They get those 3 points. They win by 3 points. People, Notre Dame fans saw that. I don't know how many people overlooked it, but yeah, if he doesn't come in and do what he does, they don't win. And there's part of me, and I wasn't alone, thinking, man, just roll with him in the second half.
I kind of thought that too, if I'm being honest.
So my text, you definitely not alone, Jesse.
Yeah.
No, can I say something to a Notre Dame fan? Because you know where my heart is from. Because I love Watts. I love the Rezacs. I love the way Notre Dame recruited here. I think, and they have plenty of good players. But there is something to be said for how comfortable they are in their own skin. Like, I can't stress how important that is if you're going to play the way that they play. A lot of people talk about next man up, and, we talk about what Riley Leonard isn't or this guy or that guy. Man, they couldn't care less. And I think that's like their superpower. And to Angeli, Jesse, how hard was he going to be to manage all year knowing that he could actually play pretty well? Like, don't undersell that. Like, keeping those guys in the fray to come in the moment when you could have made a legitimate case earlier in the season, Man, I wouldn't. That's incredible. I think it's incredible.
I think, and this is no disrespect to any other program or its players or its coaches, but that goes back to sort of the type and quality of kid that program recruits. It's borderline service academy. It really is. It almost has to be. You recruit a certain type of kid to go there, and I think Freeman has mastered that more than any of the previous coaches have. They were able to recruit talent in the past, but now you're recruiting a personality as well, and I think that's what you're seeing there with those types of kids. So, yeah, the Angeli thing, he wins it. Stylistically, I mean, if you're planning for a running quarterback, and all of a sudden now you got a kid, like you said, this kid comes in throwing darts. We haven't been defending darts.
And some of those guys weren't open.
No. He's got let's be real. That dude's got an NFL arm, and whether he stays there or he transfers, you're going to see that kid playing on. That's a Sunday arm. It really is.
The one that he threw on the sidelines on third down, I'm like, Drew Aller won't even throw that.
I was
ball.
like, why are you throwing that?
No.
It's like all of a sudden great. It's like all of a sudden you guys figured out Great House was on your team, right? Like the guy had like 20-some catches all year.
Yeah, he's a stud. The other thing too that, and as a coach who dabbles, not at your level or anything, but I watch a lot of ball. I've coached at different levels. Turning this now to Franklin, and you mentioned those Penn State running backs, right? They couldn't stop them.
No,
they could have ran the ball. So what I don't understand, and this goes out to any coach who's listening at any level, flag, tackle, I don't understand. I've seen it in games I've coached against where somebody's running a play or they're giving it to a guy, and I say to myself, man, if they keep giving it to that guy or
we're
keep running that play, we are in trouble. I don't understand why coaches try to get cute and outsmart themselves and everyone around them. Damon, I will run the same play 10 times in a row down the field if we're moving the ball. I don't care. I don't, and I don't know why coaches care.
Listen, I'm right there with you, Jesse, and I appreciate the call. I coached with a guy at our, Micah's age.
Yeah.
If you couldn't stop toss,
you just keep doing it,
or counter,
you just keep doing it.
He's gonna run that thing 20 times, and he had some horses. I was like, this has to be demoralizing. At one point, 2 years. At one point, 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Because I love all the kids, but I have a particular affinity for one of the players that was just kind of growing into being a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a natural running back. He was a really good athlete and he's a big, fast kid. And I'm like, fudge, I don't want him beat up, thinking, oh man, is it always going to be like this? So I was like, hey, share the wealth, man. Take some pressure off of Jake. It's, lighten up. I'm riding that horse. He's a big, strong kid now too. But I'm with Jesse. It's like, I was pulling my hair out, and then to see people regurgitate it was further infuriating.
About the line of scrimmage?
Yeah. I'm like, what game are you guys? You're just looking at the statistics. The line of scrimmage all night was controlled.
Yeah.
By Penn State.
Not just borderline dominated.
It's like I
didn't even think it was
7-play, 75-yard answer.
Yeah.
After Notre Dame took the lead, and you're like, oh, fudge. That drive was incredible. And Notre Dame just put together.
No,
and Penn State just turned right around and ripped that thing right down the field, running the football.
Yes. That was the one where I was like, oh, I think Penn State's going to win.
How about how they don't throw it to the running backs?
Yeah. I don't really know what to do with that.
I'm like, okay. It was about halfway through the third quarter. And I said to Caleb, I said, you're going to let the better coach team hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of
you if all things be, there's some similar situations that come to mind for me.
Sure.
And I'm like, if we can just get it to this point, we can take over.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But you
couldn't get there.
We couldn't get there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They let them get there.
When Jesse was talking, the thing I kept thinking about was the Marcus Freeman post game interview.
Oh, he's incredible.
Where it look, you want to talk about why they're so comfortable in their own skin and why they don't lose their composure. That dude looked like he was having just a casual conversation at like an Applebee's.
Yeah.
He had just won
I
a
know.
thriller of a game.
And can I just tell you?
It looked like he could not be bothered,
Like
and not in like a complacent way.
That's how he is. That's him.
I think I tweeted this. His resting heartbeat has to be like 12.
I'm not.
He's got like that kind of.
When I tell you the Jeff Wattses,
yeah,
and the DJ Rezaks of the world, like literally compare the accolades that they throw at this coach for the person and kind of the model behavior and the consistency. And I'm talking about with high-end guys, right? And I get Jesse's point, right? The service academy. And I'm not going to go that far because Notre Dame has done a lot of things the last handful of years to get guys into school. And it's a little more flexible than some of the horror stories, but still not easy.
It's still challenging. Yeah.
But they have a lot of, like when you can next level athleticism with competitive stamina, it's just dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I was, narratives. Everybody was talking about what Boston College didn't have, right? With Tupelo and Ezraku. And I'm thinking to myself, Nebraska's missing 16 sacks.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're missing a whole package. They're missing their leading tackler.
Their two best edge rushers this year.
And I was thinking to myself,
like Butler and James Williams were their best edge rushers this year, right?
We'll see how they're built as a whole.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about what people aren't. You know what I mean? Like that competitive stamina matters.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm pleasantly surprised how Nebraska's holding up in the trenches because it would have been easy not to.
100%. Well,
right?
And especially for Notre Dame, they're missing two starting offensive linemen.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
And their D line was, I won't say decimated, but I mean,
not in great shape.
They certainly
by any means.
And then they would pan the camera to those guys
on the sideline.
Like, oh, you guys got to stop doing that to them. Like they're distraught that they can't help out.
Yeah.
Stop showing them.
You can see it on their faces.
Oh yeah.
Every time
it was cringy for your boy because I'm a softie, right? I was like, oh man, don't.
Like every time Penn State would rip off a run, they'd pan to the sideline to a Notre Dame defensive lineman on crutches or in street clothes, and their faces are just like, oh, kill me now. Coming up on the show today, we've got Tim Verghese at 8:00. We'll talk a little Nebraska transfer portal. They've been busy.
Yeah.
8:30, we've got Coach Bird from the Omaha Supernovas. They tip off their season tonight. Mike Sautter at 9, talk a little NEBPreps. And, of course, our guy, Matty Vrzal. Oh, I'm not allowed to call him Matty. Our guy, Matt Vrzal, coming up at 9:45 to wrap up the week, as always. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, live at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Reminding you, the Omaha Supernovas are coming up tonight. Their first match of the season at CHI Health Center. There are a handful of tickets left remaining. Make sure.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's quite sold out
All
yet.
right, well, we need to get that.
What
about the local flavor?
What I do know is you can go to supernovas.com to get those last tickets. We will talk to Coach Bird here in a little bit about that as well. Also, if you're on the live stream, make sure you're watching our little ads come on the way through. Scan that QR code. You can actually win 4 free tickets to the Omaha Supernovas tonight as well. Yeah, you could if you want to.
Right.
Take Ryder out there. I know how you like being in public places with a lot of people around, so that seems like
I can mind my own business, though.
Seems like right up your alley.
I was contemplating going to a local sporting event the other day, and it was all predicated on if I could get there early enough to get the seat I wanted.
To hide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could not.
Well,
but I kind of know what I'm doing now.
You got to be careful out there.
It was this Hill Street Blues?
Yeah, you do.
Man.
I actually am not familiar with Hill Street. I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
It's a great show.
Was that a cop show?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my mom's favorites of all time.
That's good.
Which, by the way, I may have gone this whole week without talking to her. I gotta hit her up. That never happened.
Come on, DB.
I don't know what I've been doing. I'm telling you, man. I just
staying low key.
Just getting by.
I had dinner with my mom last night.
What'd you have?
There's a place that she likes because they're real careful with her.
I love how you dumb it down because you don't want to put her on blast. Is it not a place you would choose?
Well, it's not a place I would choose, but I'm just not trying to give out free advertising,
No, I like that. It's almost weird. Like if we do this job long enough, we actually show a little professionalism.
I try, but they treat her really well, and she's got some allergies that they're really careful with, so she goes there a lot, and I appreciate that. But no, yeah. So I usually eat with my mom Thursday nights, Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, I used to have lunch at my mom's. Well, not really lunch. I would go over there during the lunch hour.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, my dad usually.
Then I stopped eating in the middle of the day, and she's not a great eater either.
Yeah.
So that's mainly what I check on her for.
That's not a problem we have in our family.
No,
it's not eating.
It's interesting, and now they're making it easy for you, Mr. Quick Fix meal guy. They have prep stuff for everything for people that don't like to cook. You should not have to resort to that. There are so many other alternatives that are almost just as easy.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. Is
your taste buds.
No, listen, a lot of people like Uncrustables. I don't know how many adults, but a lot of people like Uncrustables, okay? Here's the problem is I want something I can just grab and go. Like I'm not trying to be in front of the microwave at 5:30 in the morning and cooking something and then eating it because then I have to wake up even earlier. I'm not trying to do that in the morning.
I kind of feel like that about setting out the vitamins.
Yeah?
Because now that we've restocked,
it's like a whole thing.
We're back up to like 7 pills a piece.
Yeah.
So I take them out. I set them all down, and I get the lids off all at once.
You set them up for everybody?
Yes.
Oh, what a nice person you are.
No. I complain. No, don't let me fool you.
Everybody.
I complain. I wholeheartedly I'm like, is anybody else capable of doing? See, don't let me fool you. I say that. I say that about everything.
Yeah.
Doing the dog food. Hey, anybody else home? Well, I don't worry, I got this.
Well,
so I'm not that nice.
At my house, usually there's not anybody else home. It's usually whoever's home does the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, that makes way too much sense.
Like because Natasha works, I works, and it's just us. It's just the two of us, right? So
something gets broke, you know who the heck did it?
Yeah, it's like, well, it's a pretty limited option here on who's on this one. But no, I'm not trying to spend time eating before I get in the car. I'm not a morning person, DB.
So it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay, and I like the little change up with Zoe too.
Yeah,
she's in a much better. And I don't have to be mad at her for her saying something reckless to me. Although she did show me some money that the tooth fairy gave her last night. She lose
a tooth?
Man, I don't know if she's got her mom's enamel or what. They're all falling out. But
super happy.
I was just playing, but not really.
She
came home yesterday, or I picked her up from school. And she's out. She's like, I lost another one. I was like, I didn't even know that one was loose. She's down about 6.
What's she? Kindergarten, first grade?
She is. I don't know. She's first grade.
That's about the right time for that.
I think she's first grade. I just know she's young. She's
for her grade.
Wait, she's June 4th.
Oh yeah, that's how I was.
So she's a full year.
I'm August, and my parents are like, go.
Yeah, you were probably obnoxious though. Was
no.
child care expensive?
No, my mom was when I was young, she ran a daycare, so she just watched us kids with
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have sent you then.
Yeah, she was like, let's get on out.
If you were somebody else, she probably would have reconsidered.
Maybe. We'll see.
Nah, I'm just playing. So I went to pick her up yesterday. I had to go see my guy Sawyer. He wrestles this weekend at Papio South.
Oh, my little dude?
Yeah.
I know Sawyer.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that Sunday and go check him out.
Yeah.
I had to break up his. I just barge into I just barge into PE. I'm like, hey, where's Sawyer?
He's a little baller.
And he's ruling the roost. I'm like, dang, this little alpha. But he's like, I said, hey, and the Chiefs are off this weekend, so you can lighten up. You don't have to be so stressed. He said, I know. Let's go. I'm like, this dude is crazy.
That's why you like him, because he's crazy.
He is nuts.
Dude, that's funny.
Yeah, but I'm just I just the whole Channel 3 Sean on Twitter. I think the reason I'm so passionate about not spreading the false narratives because it's low hanging fruit, and sometimes people don't like to actually watch before they say something. Is it totally discredits what Notre Dame was able to do?
Yeah, TK was talking about in the chat.
It totally discredits what Notre Dame.
Because if I come in here yesterday and I go, I can guarantee you, I have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what the final score is going to be, but I can guarantee you,
that Notre Dame's going to get handled up front and still win.
No, I'm just going to tell you, Penn State is going to decidedly handle Notre Dame in the trenches on both sides all day. Your final score prediction is what?
Not 27-24.
Not close, right?
Yeah.
Because we did not think, and I'm including myself in this, did not think Notre Dame was capable of winning the way they won last night.
Like, go back, like, just entertain yourself and go back and watch those little route concepts where they would get in those little condensed two-bys and motion inside to outside just to get a DB on the move, and then they just won. They just won those. And I'm like, I'm watching this passing offense.
Like, initially I thought
these guys. At one point, how many passes did Leonard complete? At one point, he was like 14 of 18 in the second half.
Also, did they not know Greathouse was on the team all year?
Dude, when I tell you he had 20-some catches going
No, I know.
He had 20-some catches.
But I'm watching that dude, and he makes the acrobatic sideline catch on the throw from Leonard. He puts that – because
when he shook the DB to the ground?
Initially, I thought he just fell.
Yeah.
And then they zoomed in on it. I was like, oh, no, he put him in the ground.
Yeah.
And then he put the next guy on the ground.
Did you hear McElroy? That's it. What an unfortunate time to slip.
Dude, McElroy was so GD bad last night. I was out of my – I'm sorry, I got to do this right now. I was
this dude sits up in his seat. What happened?
I was losing my mind with Greg McElroy last night because Notre Dame gets the ball back after the interception, right? Yeah. And he's like, hey, if you break – because Riley Leonard almost broke free on that quarterback run early. Yeah. And he's like, oh, man, if you break free, you got to down it at like the 3-yard line.
Oh, when he's talking about not scoring?
Yeah, he's like, you can't score with 30 seconds left. And then like 3 plays later, he's like, oh, man, you maybe wanted to get a touchdown here because Notre Dame doesn't have a real reliable kicking unit. And then Sean McDonough's like, yeah, during the regular season, it was the worst kicking unit in the country. And I was like, this moron wanted me to down it at the 3 to kick a field goal because he thought 29 seconds was too much time to be up 7. But he wants to trot off this field goal kicker, who, by the way, great job on Jeets. Like, way to make that field goal. Appreciate it. But how about his dad? Is he like the most famous? Who's more famous, Riley Leonard's mom or? Oh, definitely Riley Leonard's mom. Definitely Riley Leonard's mom.
I don't know.
They went to Jeets' dad a lot late, but Riley Leonard's mom had been getting the run.
They've had the camera on him for 3 weeks with every kick Notre Dame attempts.
Yeah, because their kicking game has been suspect at best.
But it's kind of a misnomer.
Well, they turned it around. They turned it around.
And Freeman was.
He mentioned that.
He was very quick to tell us that.
But Greg McElroy literally just contradicted himself within 3 plays of one another. And also, the first take was so dumb. You're a football coach. People remember this. If your guy breaks open, let's say last year, let's say you ever played a close game last year, which was not an issue. But let's say Anthony Rizak breaks open with 30 seconds left, and you're tied. Is there any world in which you're like, hey, get down, bud?
No.
Because that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
It's tied?
It's a tie game.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that.
It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I'm not saying that.
In what world does that make any sense?
I don't know. I have to go back and listen to that. And then, I was too busy trying to figure out.
Listen to the last drive of the game.
I was too busy trying to figure out what I try to guess based on formations.
Yeah.
Like what people are doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, ooh, I bet they like this matchup. Or so I kind of tuned out of what was being said.
I couldn't handle it. I was losing my mind. And then you just add on the fact that every single call that was made, it's a great call by the officials.
Were you streaming okay last night?
Yeah, mine was good. I almost never have issues on my stream. I don't know. It is what it is.
Optics.
That's TB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Tim Verghese up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by our friend Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, what's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. Doing well. It's been a good week down here in San Antonio.
TV, you got to be right in your stinking wheelhouse, just nerding out, taking notes, right? Like, is that like?
That's Candyland for Tim Verghese.
Yeah, man. Well, different Candyland.
Yeah, it's been a blast, and like, yeah, we've had a couple drop. Like, there was a couple of quarterbacks I wanted to see that didn't ultimately show, but I mean, today's the combine. I'm heading over there here after this, and that's, we've got 600 guys, underclassmen coming, so I'm just going to be there all day taking notes. That's my wheelhouse.
Man, that Ravi was over here, Ravi Unchained here with the whole Candyland reference. I'm gonna get this thing back on track here, TV. Some interesting stuff going on. You're watching a lot of the guys, and I want to start with Cortez Mills because a lot of these guys on staff that are very familiar, the Phil Simpsons of the world that I've had a chance to kind of sit and talk upside, explosiveness, and competitiveness with Cortez Mills. In that order, what has impressed you the most as he continues to stack days?
Yeah, it's like the competitiveness is there. Like that fire is there. The personality is there. Like I talk to him, and I just get the same feelings I did talking to Ja'Cory Barney in the spring of just like, oh, this kid's a competitor. This kid really wants it, and I feel like it's going to be hard to leave that type of kid off the field. And then, yeah, I mean, you watch him to play this week. He's making up for lost time in a way, just because he missed like more than half of his senior year because of injury. So he went out to this Dade showcase a couple of weeks ago, had a really good week there, but that was against this local South Florida talent, which, as we know, it's a good group of talent, but it wasn't like national level talent. Now he's here, and he's running routes hard every single play. Like, what's impressed me over the past 2 days is, in 11-on-11, he's not the one getting the ball, but he's running his route all the way through. He's making sure, he's still getting open and kind of pushing through when others, it's an all-star scenario. A lot of these guys are early enrollees. They're not going 100% necessarily. Christian Jones and Cortez Mills, both those guys, like the effort they've showed this week has really impressed, because both those guys aren't just here just to be all Americans. They're here to kind of like prove themselves a little bit. And Cortez told me yesterday he wants to prove that he's the best receiver in the country, and he's doing a good job of like making his case for it.
Yeah, I like the Christian Jones thing, just because there's two things that I always talk about with him. Number one, he's a higher level thinker, so like concepts aren't going to really be a problem for him. Now, turning himself loose to play fast within those concepts maybe, but that'll happen with time. But the other thing is he doesn't miss reps. His ability to be available every day at a high level without having to always be spectacular is eventually going to pan out for him, because he shows up. He's steady Eddie. He shows up every day.
Yeah. And for him, like, this week was not about, kind of proving himself or any of that. Like, there wasn't any like big boxes he had to check. It was ultimately just how he stacks up against this level of competition. I know, talking to national evaluators down here and talking to some coaches down here, they really just wanted to see, because, the Class A competition in Nebraska has improved, no doubt, and he's faced some future Power 4 talent. But
they probably want to see him flash more, right? Because he does so many of the little things without, like, eye-popping stuff.
Right, and also you just wanted to see, like, okay, how does it look when he's taking on blocks from 6'4" to 6'6", 300-plus pound offensive tackles, guys that are going to Penn State, Notre Dame, and all these different programs. And then you see kind of watching him in coverage a little bit too. You like the zone drops. You're watching him against other linebackers in individual drills. And it's like, okay, yeah, you can tell the wide receiver background's there, because he's catching balls that some of these other guys are struggling to get hands on.
Tim, before we get to Nebraska here, I want to ask a little non-Nebraska question with your All-American experience. Outside of Cortez and Christian Jones, is there somebody you've just had eyes on that maybe doesn't get a ton of national pub that you've just been super impressed with?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's an individual name I've loved out here. I'll say one I've loved, and I think he's a top 50 guy by most every rankings recruiting, but I don't think he gets talked about enough. Eric Winters, he's headed to Auburn.
Yeah.
He's a safety, can also play linebacker. I love that kid. He flies around from the safety position. He held up in one-on-one coverage against Jamie French, who's a 5-star heading to Texas, one of the best receivers in the country.
What are his real measurables, TV?
Sorry?
What are his real measurables?
I believe he came in at 6'1", right around 200.
Okay. He looks longer than that.
Yeah. I think there's some good length. I don't have his wingspan off the top of my head, but I do believe he's got a good wing. And yeah, I mean, the big question with him kind of coming into this week, and what I wanted to see is there is this like question about his long-term projection. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? After seeing him today or this week, I think you can play him at safety and he can just be like a more physically developed safety, like a guy that comes in. You don't need to pack a whole lot of weight on him. You kind of just let him roam in the back end of the defense because he can hit, he can cover, he can do all the little things you want at the safety position. I really liked him. And then another one I'll mention, Khalid Lockett, another one that has some national attention, is a 5-star by some other ranking services, but that kid just does a lot of the things right. You know, there's some elite receivers down here, some guys that, you know, maybe ranked higher, maybe bigger, maybe faster, but he runs routes at an exceptionally high level, does a really good job at the point of attack, and you know, I just think he does a good job separating as well. I think he's next up at Texas.
Tim, as we kind of shift gears here from the All-American events over to what Nebraska's been doing in the transfer portal, obviously picked up another couple commits this week at against some key spots. Are you surprised at all, considering how many guys they have in that secondary, how aggressive they've been with the defensive backs in the portal class?
It's corners.
Yeah, been a little surprised, especially, you know, with the you know, kind of especially recently, last 2 weeks or so, the idea that Deshaun Singleton could potentially return. Ultimately, you know, it's on Singleton to decide what he wants, but I mean, the idea that you could potentially get Singleton back plus all of these DBs. I mean, my read on the situation right now is that it's going to be open competition here in the spring, and you know, there's going to be some people that it's going to be like the NFL minicamp. It's going to be one of those things where it's like, hey, at the end of the spring, or even towards the end of spring, because the way the window works, towards the end of spring ball, they're going to have some tough sit-down conversations with a few DBs in that room and being like, hey, you know, you're not going to be on this roster in the fall, so you're going to have to, you know, enter that portal and decide what's next. Like, that's just kind of where we're at right now, and I think John Butler and Addison Williams wanted that infusion. We talked so much in the season on the athletic deficiency they kind of had in the secondary. I think they wanted some good athletes. I think they've gone out and found some good athletes. And it's an interesting mix of like guys that can play some safety, guys that can play some corner, guys that have playing experience and starting experience, like long-term starting experience, versus, you know, like Marquise Gross-Kilbrew has 1 real year of experience across 3 schools, but the 1 year is really good. And then you look at a guy like Andrew Marshall, who's been pretty consistent, has played well, you know, is a guy that, you know, you feel good about, you know, potentially starting down the line. And then you've got Justin Rett, who hasn't played a whole lot at Georgia, and there's a big question on, like, how far along is he in his development? And, you know, is he a guy that sticks around in Nebraska, or is he like a 1 semester and done? I think there's a chance. I'll say this right now with some of these transfers too. I think there's a chance like 2-3 plus transfers coming in are potentially 1 semester and done type guys.
100%. 100%. I think you're spot on. I think it will be like this. I think there will be extensive tryouts, like especially at the cornerback spots where you want a little flexibility. But I think that's good insight on your part. Just, you know, kind of process
like Damon, like I wonder a little bit too, like because I thought Donovan Jones was a safety this whole time.
Yeah.
Him playing in that bowl game and playing as well as he did, like what wrench does that throw in now to like the cornerback position and cornerback depth? Because that's a name I just kind of expected to slot into the safety rotation, and now it's like, okay, well, who slides back to safety? Who makes up that number?
So I think for him, and good on him. I think for him, what started was he was always going to be the corner in their dime stuff, especially when BC used 2 tight ends. And Nebraska wanted to be a little bigger still on the perimeter because BC quietly had 2 pretty good tight ends. And I think what happened was the way that the game was going, kind of the field, his mentality. I just think they went with toughness and competitiveness, right? Like he'll figure it out on the go, but he was practicing outside the numbers for a while. So it wasn't like, oh, let's just try him at corner. It was just in some of their smaller specialty packages. So as he continued to flourish, I think they rode the hot hand, and they've shown. That's why I like the competitive thing and kind of this on-the-fly trial, because what they've shown is they'll give you, and I get it with some of the safeties. You're going to be like, well, they didn't do that with the safeties. They just let those guys play. But with the cornerback spots in particular, they'll go hot hands, and they'll let you play your way into or out of it outside the numbers. Right? We saw Jeremiah Charles start against UCLA. And like how it went. They make it this like we've seen it with Amari. We've seen it with guys where it's kind of like, okay, let's see where we're at, and if we like it, we'll stay with it. If not, next man up. Like corner will be highly competitive.
For sure. And that's a room that you want competitors there. Like you want guys that have that, like you mentioned, you kind of want guys with that attitude, and guys that are willing to compete. So if it's like you go in the spring and you see anyone kind of ducking out of the competition, like that should tell you a lot, because that just tells you about their makeup as well, because this is a position where you need to be competitive snap to snap.
Well, and remember, we had Amari, JJ, and Bly. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like not an afterthought, but it's that just to my point about you better be stacking good weeks to stay in the mix is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now we're not even really like Jeremiah Charles was potentially a budding star, and he still could be. He's highly talented. But what we never get to see, or what we don't know, Tim, what I think they're trying to find is those guys that show up and compete and stack days every single day. Like that's going to be the thing with these guys. It doesn't matter what the spot is, right? I said this, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on like Ty Robinson and some of these guys that are leaving. We'll say, oh, those guys are hard to replace. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking the work output. Can those guys match the work output that some of these guys show every day? And if they do, that'll give them a chance. Like, can you match Sierra Wright's work output? Like, he's a fantastic practice player. Ja'Cory Barney is a fantastic practice player. So as these guys start to pop, they become like the fluid benchmark of what you're expected day in, day out. You know what I mean? That's what's really happening, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think again the like you mentioned with Ty and Nash too, like the proof is in the pudding of like, they can just point and say like, look how these guys improved just with consistent effort and practice and that competitive mindset. And yeah, it'll work out. Like I think ultimately, we're all kind of hinting at. I think all of this competition ultimately will be better for the team in 2025. It's just going to lead to a couple uncomfortable conversations in the spring, a couple names people maybe didn't expect, or people expected to stick around with this program for the long haul, maybe won't be with the program anymore. Like it's going to be an uncomfortable period here in the spring, but
I agree.
The team I think will ultimately be better for it come, August.
Tim, it's funny you bring that up, because as we're having that conversation, as you and DB are talking, I'm thinking, all of that's great. And I think that's the best way to put a team together. I think it's really hard. I think it's a lot harder to stomach that in 2025 when you have the social media aspect of, well, wait, this guy just got here, and, oh, he was so highly touted. And then you're going to have some guys.
We got to change, too. That's a good point.
You're going to have some guys, like you said, Tim, kind of fall by the wayside. That is just nothing necessarily wrong with them, but they weren't at the top of the group, and they're going to move on with the roster limit.
And that's kind of what you're saying, right, TV? You're like, I'm just saying. Like,
there's going to be some guys
might be in and out. Like, I like how you're kind of.
There's going to be some names that people are mad are gone.
He's giving us a soft landing already.
Right? That it's like, well, we had the competition and they didn't cut it. Like, right? Like, that's kind of what we're saying.
Right, exactly. Because, and especially now, like Nebraska, you look at the takes they're making in the transfer portal. You look at some of the swings they took in high school recruiting. It wasn't their intention. If it was up to Matt Rule and his staff, he'd like to keep all of these guys on the roster. But with the 105 roster limit, this spring, it's kind of like you can bring a guy on and say, hey, you got to earn it in the spring. Like, you got to earn this spot in the spring. Like, we're going to bring you on for now. And you've got, the semester here with us. But you really got to earn it. And we'll help you find a landing spot if it doesn't work out here. But you got to come in here. And if you want to stick around in this program, like, you have to earn that spot. And you have to beat out this guy, all competitive athletes that, have either been in the program longer or, have a high-end athleticism. You have to beat these guys to stick around. And so, again, looking at this group right now, the transfer group, Marquise Groves, Caleb Brew, I think is one that, had a really good year. And depending on the player Nebraska gets, which version of him they get, he's a guy that we could potentially see starting in the fall. Or he's a guy that comes to Nebraska with, on his fourth school in 4 years, sees the competition in the room, does his best in the competition, but if he fades or if he falls out of the two deep or one of those things, he could wind up back in the portal. And Justin Rhett, from Georgia, another one that we don't know what he is. He's not played in 2 years. And so if he comes to practice and it's like, oh, it's come together for him, it's really starting to come together for him. He's flying around, he's triggering well from the safety spot. It's like, oh, shit, okay, well, Nebraska has a guy they didn't expect was at this level. But there's also a chance that, it still hasn't really come together for him. The light isn't there. And he has to have some uncomfortable conversations and reassess where he is in terms of his development and, where he should be playing football next year because, it may not be at the Power 4 level.
Yeah, I think handling rigor is a real thing. I think that's one component that they would really, really want to up. It's already kind of competitive. It's rigor. Can you show up every single day at X level is what I want to see. And let me ask you something along those lines, TV. I've been asking guys, we keep talking about who's coming and development, and is it quick fix versus development? Because Nebraska's up to what in the portal edition? 16
yesterday.
Yeah. And I was still glad to hear last night they talked Notre Dame having 13 as a small number. So I was like, oh, okay, we're still in the neighborhood. But of the guys that are back, okay, that are already in the fold, if TV gets his druthers and you want to use a development poster child to catapult the program, who develops, in your opinion, as say, hey, look, see what they've done with this guy, if Nebraska wants to be where they want to be in 2025?
I would say I think you could point to a couple offensive linemen, guys that have been with the program for a bit and have been working with Donovan Raiola. I could go anywhere from, Gunnar Gatula taking a step up and potentially, locking down the tackle position. We could talk about, Grant Bricks potentially taking that leap and entering the starting lineup, whether that's a tackle or a guard. Defensively, and it's somewhat cheating a little bit because we didn't see them on the field this year. I think it's really important that Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee take steps forward, take big steps forward this spring. Like, you can't have with both of those guys. I don't think you can really afford to have a sophomore tapering off, kind of like what we saw with Cam Leonard and Prince Will this past season. I think those guys need to step up into bigger roles and also step up as players to beat those bigger roles. And so it's cheating a little bit because we've only seen 1 year of those guys, and we did see those guys on the field. But those are two guys that I think, and again, if Nebraska is able to play those guys and those guys play well, Nebraska can take and point to those two guys, go into South Florida and say, look what we did with Vincent Shavers, who Miami just decided last minute they didn't want anymore. Look what we did with Willis McGahee, who none of the schools down here were really serious about until he started doing some stuff in Nebraska. Like, come to Nebraska and get developed like these guys and see the field like these guys. Like, that'll give them some real recruiting power down in South Florida.
All right. Because you let me spend too much time in my own head, I can easily flip. So yesterday, TV, I was talking to Brunts, and I was like, you know who I would make that person? I'd make it Dylan Raiola. And it's weird to start with one of your better players, but I'm like, ooh, if he got in like elite level fitness and really started to sharpen up, took that leap, like that would really springboard the program. And then some other guys started coming up with some names. And so there's three along the D line. So I'll give you Raiola, Keona Davis, Riley Van Poppel, Elijah Judy. Is there a guy of those four where if he develops the way you think Nebraska wants to play could be the catalyst?
I mean, it's hard not to say Dylan just because it's Dylan. And because of the fact that, if Nebraska gets a serious step forward from him with these receivers.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, it would. Yeah. If he takes a next step and gets closer to the expectations we kind of had for him out of high school, that's a big deal for Nebraska. And then I think second in that group, just in terms of if you want to point to development, I mean, Riley Van Poppel could be one hell of a story just because he's a guy that out of Argyle in Texas was seen as like an offensive lineman / defensive lineman. Don't really knew where to put him. He was kind of this like fringe 3-star. By some people had him at a 4-star. To come to Nebraska, to buy into the vision the staff had for him, to be able to redshirt as technically, in his second year with the program after playing as a freshman, adding the weight, doing what he needs to do in the locker room, and completely turning into a different player than he was in high school. Like, I mean, not even like a different looking player, but a different player. He was an end in high school. He was a guy that was winning, kind of all over the line. And you're talking about a guy that's now expected to step up and fill Ty Robinson's role. If he can do that, if he gets out there and he proves to be just this like big body that can't be moved off a spot, that can get some pressures on the quarterback, that defends the run really well. I mean, that's development. That's okay. Hey, Terry Bradden, you earned your money. Terrence Knighton, look what you obviously contributed to this as well. Nebraska and Matt Rule can kind of go around to defensive linemen across the country and say, hey, we can develop you into this. And look at the run we've had now between Nash, Ty, sending Jamari Butler off to LSU, sending Prince Will off to Ole Miss. Like, even if it goes guys transferring up and getting a bag, that stuff still matters. You still get to claim those guys as you developed and help those guys find the spots they did.
That would be, you know what else is funny listening to you talk about Riley with his personality? He loves Nebraska. So I think like poster child sales pitch too in that regard, because when the more he gets behind the mic, I think the more Nebraska fans are going to fall in love with him. He absolutely loves Nebraska.
Yeah, and he's got a chance to stick around here and become a fan favorite for, the next 2-3 potentially seasons.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, inside Nebraska. Tim, enjoy your time at the All-American Bowl, and we will talk to you again next week.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Y'all have a good weekend.
Thanks, TV. Be safe.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, inside Nebraska. What's up?
Have you flipped on your development guy?
Well, I mean, I said this.
It was yours RVP originally? Or
no,
did you
mine was Keona.
Oh, Davis.
Yeah. But that was more of like a guy that I thought could be in that conversation more than I was convicted on.
So the first time in 24 hours, somebody brought up, now Gatula, could you get me off my spot? That's interesting. That would be a heck of a story.
It would be a heck of a story, but this sounds weird. If he had the exact same year he has this year, I'm fine.
Oh, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say, Raiola's the one where if he takes that leap, almost nothing else matters. It really doesn't. Coach Bird coming up next, Omaha Supernovas. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, live from the Pillar Exterior Stage, brought to you by our friends over at Game Day Men's Health. I was just there this week to get my blood drawn again, make sure, even though I'm feeling good, they got to make sure all the underlying stuff looks good as well.
I just got my package in the mail yesterday.
Hey, me too. That's one of the things I appreciate about them, right, is they ship it straight to my door after the initial consultation. Makes my life super easy. Plus, they're trying to make sure I'm actually healthy, not just feeling different. Get that blood panel. Check not your gulab jamun, your hemoglobin.
One of those.
And make sure you're feeling good and healthy. I know DB and I both have been feeling good lately. Make sure you get over to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You can feel as good as we do. We'll get to our friend, Coach Kuhn Bird, over from the Omaha Supernovas here in just a minute. But you keep coming back to this development part, right, with the Huskers. And you brought up Gunnar Gatula. And
I didn't. TV did.
TV brought up Gunnar Gatula. And then
which I thought was interesting.
It's an interesting one for sure. And then you asked me about him, and I don't know, maybe this is just my novice football brain, the way I look at the offensive line, right? I think Gunnar Gatula was fine last year. Do you want him to get better? Absolutely. But if the offensive line plays well, I tend to think of that as a group effort. And if the offensive line's getting whipped, I tend to think of that as an individual effort, right? So as long as, like, Gunnar Gatula wasn't bad enough for me to think it was a him problem last year, right? Do you want him to get better? Of course. I can't imagine he'll get any worse as he gets stronger and more ready to play. But I look at defensive line success more individually, even though I know there's group concepts going on there.
Like looking for a record.
Yeah, and I think Keona Davis can be a game wrecker. That's a guy I look at, I go, okay.
So your Keona Davis is my Mekhi Nelson. That was the guy that we watched at the open scrimmage. And I was like, ooh, I like that guy. And you're like, oh, well, who's that guy?
Yeah, I'm watching these defensive line, goal line drills, right?
Because you were on the other end, right? Were you on the opposite end of me to start?
To start, yes. Yeah. And then I came down and sat by you, and I'm watching these goal line drills, and I go, who's that?
Yeah.
Because he kept doing stuff, right? He just kept doing stuff. And so I'm watching him, and I go, okay.
And as my man Jay Foreman would say, he's got the all-world get off the bus first frame.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, I know we all kind of made jokes when people compared, or when Knighton compared his frame to Ndamukong Suh, and like that's kind of an unfair thing to put on some guys. Yeah. But his point was there's nothing physically.
Would you pick an offensive lineman? Because if Gatula and Bricks are good, Nebraska could be
really good.
Really good.
Yes. So I wouldn't pick an individual offensive lineman. If you let me pick the unit, I would.
Well, I think everybody would.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
I bet some people would still pick Raiola.
Everybody. I thought I was going out on a limb picking Raiola because he's not the one that needs to improve the most.
No.
He just could matter the most.
But his improvement would matter the most. Like, it may not be as dramatic as some guys. Like, Keona Davis could go from
some guys you need to go from like a 5 to an 8.
Yes. Right? But if Dylan goes from a 6 to a 9, then, like I've said, almost nothing else matters. When you have a quarterback that's that good.
Well, it's still 3 spots.
I understand. But when you have a quarterback
so let's say he's a 7 and he goes to an 8.5.
Then you probably
I still would probably take Dylan.
Yeah, I think I'd take that.
I think I would take Dylan. Just give me elite level fitness. And don't change anything else.
Were you taking fitness or deep ball accuracy?
No,
you want fitness no matter what.
Well, that's easy if you give me everything to get really good at.
I'm saying either or.
I'm giving you the depth of just one little thing. Mm-hmm. Just get an elite level shape.
I would take that.
I think it would change.
I'm not sure I would take it over.
I think it would change his running confidence. I think it would change the world.
I'm not sure I would take it over deep ball accuracy. Like, if I could get him dialed in deep ball wise the way he looked in high school, I might take that over the elite level fitness.
Oh.
Because that was the one thing people were like, oh, this guy's got that
you complete
in high school.
You complete that first ball to Lloyd versus Iowa, and it's different, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah, I get
there was a handful of them like that over the course of the year. We can jump back into this here in a second, but it's time to talk to one of our favorites, Coach Laura Kuhn, Bird, the Omaha Supernovas head coach. How are you this morning?
Hi there. Good morning. Great. How are you guys doing?
There's that voice. Coach, you got to be living your best life, man. You the season's getting ready to start. You get to defend you get to defend the title. You get a tough one. It's at home. You've got I don't even want to use the word bolstered with all the bolstered jokes over this offseason, but you get some new fresh faces, man. Like, life's got to be pretty okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good space right now. It's game day. I mean, it's the first game day, so it's a home opener. Yeah, can't really make it much better than this. Coming back, running it back from a championship. But, yeah, a lot of new faces, but this group is fun. I think it's going to be so cool to see them get to experience our Novas Nation tonight live for the first time.
It's cool, just having so much familiarity with some of the local talent you brought in. Are you ready for the personalities and the camaraderie that's already amongst that group that you've inherited. That's a pretty fun bunch.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been seeing all these social media, the TikToks. I mean, it never ceases to amaze me, the TikToks and the things that go on. But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, this group is very special. I think the coolest part is that these players have played against each other and they like know of each other, and some of them know each other. But to see them come in and train, like our training camp was longer this year, which is cool. But to see them come in and just to begin to mesh and watch their personalities and just them as people get to know each other on and off the court, it's just fun. I mean, it's so awesome for our sport. And I think all of us coaches and people that are involved at this level now and creating this in the States, it's just so fun for us.
I'm amazed at how much talent there is in how there's so much to go around. It's kind of scary.
Well, yeah, and honestly, the college draft it was interesting last year. Obviously, none of us really knew what to expect or how everything was going to kind of play out. But now it's like super exciting. Obviously, this year we do the college draft leading into the NCAA tournament, and then we're literally in our training camp during the NCAA tournament, and then we add these kids to our team. I mean, it's just the coolest layout, like something that we didn't even know we needed for our sport, but like the energy around it, and now to kick off our season with those players that were just playing in the tournament, it's just cool. I mean, the whole thing is great for our sport, but awesome for the volleyball community here in the States. Like, this is what I think when I played, I mean, we never really thought about playing pro. It was like you just go overseas if you want to, or you start coaching or whatever you're going to do, you just move on. So this is just a whole new element, and I think it's so exciting for the athletes, the coaches, everyone involved with our volleyball community.
Coach, you've got kind of a unique situation here. Obviously, you're coming off the championship, get a little banner raising tonight at the CHI, but your roster has turned over a ton. How do you kind of deal with the juxtaposition of, hey, we're the defending champs, but most of these players didn't win a championship last year?
I mean, I think it's the basics of athletics. I mean, you say it every year as a coach, like, last year was last year. You know, you have to create it, you have to build it, you have to do it again, because every year is going to be different. No matter if we had all the returners or not, like, you have to create that, and you have to find and mesh all the new pieces. So the competitive chemistry, the team camaraderie, like all of those things, every season it changes. And I think right now with our pro landscape, it is going to change a lot because there's a lot of moving pieces, you know? I mean, the free agency period, I mean, they're going to pursue their best opportunities, and I totally understand that and appreciate it. And a handful of our players retired, to be honest. And so those are things that we kind of knew. Like, all of that stuff, like, you don't know a lot of things, but through dialogues and conversations, you kind of learn each other and you kind of get ready for your next move. So we're excited. I think it's still just a great energy for our sport, and this team is going to be so fun. Yeah, our fans are going to love connecting with this team.
You always bring the juice on the radio. Do you ever just stop and, not that you can smell the flowers, but you probably need to get some flowers, man. February 6th, I think it was a year ago, the interim tag, and it's like not even a full year later, here we are, right? Like,
yeah, that's wild.
like bravo.
Yeah, I didn't even think in time frames, because sometimes it could feel like yesterday, and sometimes it's like, wow, that feels like it was like a decade ago.
February 6th, Coach.
That wasn't even a year ago. Yeah, that's wild.
Coach, best of luck tonight. We will see you out at CHI, and hope we have another great season here with the Supernovas in Omaha.
Awesome. Always fun talking to you guys. We'll see you tonight.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Bird, the Omaha Supernovas. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union. Make sure you get to centrisfcu.org to check out all they have to offer. Everybody says new year, new me. What about new year, new financial situation? Make sure you go check out Centris. I've done some business with them in the past, done car loans. They do home loans. They do your regular banking. They've got you covered. They're federally insured by NCUA, and they're an equal housing lender. Make sure you go check them out, centrisfcu.org.
Team Centris.
That's right.
Centris.
Team Centris.
So it's Michael Woodman.
Michael Woodman.
Woodman was the principal.
Like Woodman of the World?
Yes.
Woodman Tower?
Yes. He's a vice principal. Welcome back, Carter. This is really dumb, you guys. So welcome back.
A lot of stuff was happening off
I
air.
was making fun of Michelle Smallman.
Yes. And you always call her
Smallwood. And then I was thinking,
welcome back, Cotter.
No, I was thinking Wood. Like, wasn't there a Smallwood in one of those old 70s sitcom shows? But it was Woodmen.
Yes.
And I confused Gabe. I want to say
Gabe Kaplan, not Gabe Kapler.
I was going to say the baseball.
Oh, yeah, I could have told you all that.
Gabe Kaplan.
Stop it. I asked you 15 minutes. You knew
for
nothing.
Judd Hirsch.
Because you were asking for something else.
Judd Hirsch did remind me of Gabe Kaplan.
Yeah, we're right. That's who you confused for each other.
Yeah.
And Shane was just confused in general. He offered no help whatsoever.
He said, I don't know, 15 times, except for Vinny Barbarino.
Except for, he'd be like,
John Travolta. That's all he said.
It wasn't just, I don't know. It's the classic Shane, like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's all right, though. We figured it out. Hi, Cam. I think it's Cam's birthday.
Is it really?
I think so.
Aw. Maybe he can do that thing like where he did the whole Butler on Mr. Deeds thing. Where he just popped up and disappeared.
So
he did come in.
So here's what I'll say about that. Is yesterday when Burma was in here, I had no idea until you said it. So it's very possible Cam could have done the same thing.
How do you not know when somebody walks in here?
Like, so the way my eyes are, like the way I'm looking, my peripherals end about right before the door.
That's incredible.
So I'm not seeing, like, if somebody walks in, the way when I'm looking at you, I have no idea.
Man, I stay on paranoid.
You do, because you're always looking for a chupacabra out there.
True.
We've been better about keeping the door closed for you, though.
That's because nobody uses it right now.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, make sure next time we have a live event out here, you come out. We can kind of give you the lay of the land. You can see DB's paranoia he gets real paranoid when I'm like looking out the window at all. And you're like, what are you looking out there, man? Because I'll kind of like move my head a little bit. You know what I'm doing when I'm doing that? Have I told you?
No.
I have this weird okay. So wherever you put the blinds, I kind of like try and line it up with something outside on my like line of vision. And so it looks like I'm like looking around stuff.
Do you know why I mess with why there's varying levels of the blinds?
No, I don't.
It depends on what I want people to see.
Okay.
So sometimes I won't raise it above the door handle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll like let
it be
it
all the
roll
way
in.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on my mood.
It's just it's a physical manifestation of your mood that day.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all.
But that's all I'm doing. So like now,
sometimes if you'll notice, I won't even open.
You won't even touch them.
No.
Yeah. So right now I'm lining up the bottom of the shade with the top of my car, and I find that there's like I find it soothing to line the shade up with something outside.
Speaking of shade, did you watch the end of Ohio State, Oregon?
No, last night.
Yeah.
No.
Bad.
I was locked in.
Eight point lead, almost whole game, and I'm out on Rutgers.
Yeah.
They can't get stops. I don't know why. It's they had Purdue out there looking like Showtime Lakers.
They're gonna have the second and third picks of the draft probably, and they're
maybe.
Right now that's what's projected.
No, I know, but
who knows? But right now they're top 5 for sure. They're gonna have 2 top 5 picks. Is that fair?
I'm not vibing with Ace.
He's gonna be a top 5 pick.
Super capable though.
He's gonna be a top 5 pick.
Whatever. It says the guy that didn't even like Cooper Flagg, and he's surefire.
I'm saying the production has been a little early. Offensively, the production was overstated early.
Are you ready for college basketball to come back locally outside of Omaha? Because it doesn't seem like these guys.
I haven't watched Creighton play, and like it feels like
it's been a while.
I mean, it'll be longer than a full week, right? They played last Friday.
Yeah, and I think they only played twice in 11 days.
Longer than that, because it was
12 days.
So they had 10 days off before their last game. So they've played 3 times in 18 days, basically, which is not a lot.
Or twice in 11, like I said.
Nah, that's not right.
Wow. All right, Mick Cronin.
It's hard to coach people that are delusional, DB.
Nah, it's hard to work with those guys too.
Yet here I am every day doing my best.
Completely delusional about who they are.
Nice spin.
That's what I do. It's the spin zone.
Nice spin.
No, it's I've
My buddy Aaron. He's out on Rutgers too.
yeah, you're DGen Aaron.
Yeah.
So they've got two guys that I think are surefire
It's funny
top
how
five
you think
picks.
that's his first name. It's only like that in my phone.
No, it's fine.
DJ and Aaron.
Well, I'm just trying to differentiate because
DJ.
you know a lot of people.
Do I talk to any other Aarons?
I don't know
That's
if,
fine.
I don't know if you talk to any other Aarons, but
I'm just trying to think. I don't think I do.
I don't know if you talk to any other Jordans either, but I always qualify with St. Louis.
Yeah, that Jordan is kind of the only. I think there's multiple Johns,
And Lances.
multiple Lances, multiple Bretts, multiple Adams.
How many Ravis do you know?
None. Not a damn one.
Oh, it's like that, huh?
Not one. Hey, I didn't bring any of our friends today.
Yeah, Sasha was concerned.
Oh, was she?
She was. She goes, the show's mostly been on the rails and we have no faces up here. Is everything okay?
So I got to go back and see my guy, because there's a few I don't have that I need,
Okay.
and they're spectacular.
But you have a whole, like,
I have a lot, but it's not. It's always kind of somewhat be relative to what we're talking about. So I need the full range.
I thought you were just putting up there randomly.
No, that's definitely not random. You don't get G Sharp and Coach Rule randomly. I had snow up here as a confidant the other day when I was hoping it would snow.
Thought you were just
What was my Dannon day? The Dannon day was we didn't get to it, but I wanted to talk about field design and layout. And do we still
Back
want, and do we still want grass?
I thought we were talking about yogurt that day.
I don't. Contrary
To this day.
Never mind.
What's that, DB?
We've gone through the yogurt thing before,
What's going on?
and you were offended. So
What's going on?
Although Wyatt did give me some love because I made Pacific Rim-ish type food, and I did not text him for once.
You can call it Asian food.
He said you made Asian
okay.
food without asking for my help.
I don't know that. If
The
you
last-
say
so
Pacific
what I-
Rim food, nobody knows what you're talking about.
I know it's. I feel better that way. I do have to ask him about these elusive Asian pears, though.
Yeah?
Yes.
Dude, Asian pears are real good.
Oh, thanks for rubbing it in.
I love Asian pears.
So that really, I mean, full disclosure, started the whole dialogue.
Asian pears?
I'm like, can I sub regular pears for Asian pears? And he made a funny joke about.
Can't do that. Can't do
It
that.
was just his.
Are you going to start calling them Pacific Rim pears because it makes you uncomfortable?
Shut up.
You all right over there?
Yes, it's a good thing I don't have joke Tourette's.
It's true.
I ate that one. And I laughed it off. But I am ready for like local. I need. Local.
I'd like to see some hoops.
I need local basketball back.
Creighton and Butler tomorrow morning.
How awful is Butler?
Very, very bad. I'm still concerned though about.
It's because it's at Hinkle.
Yeah, they play terrible at Hinkle, and it doesn't matter how good or bad Butler is. Like historically, it really doesn't.
And Creighton's had a layoff.
And I don't know how good Creighton is. Like I just really don't. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be like negative Nancy over here or anything, but I have no idea how good Creighton is this year or how bad they are.
I know Butler's pretty bad.
I do know that. That is a fact. And then you've got Nebraska. Was it Sunday against Purdue?
Yeah.
That's a tough one at Purdue.
It is. But I think Nebraska always has this bounce back in them.
Yeah, they'll need to.
So, like, what about tonight, man? Because you know how I feel. Have I convinced you?
About what? Texas, Ohio State?
Yeah. Texas is such a live dog, it's not even funny. And I don't know anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to these national shows, I'm not even sure why Texas is showing up.
Yeah, I might as well just call it a day.
Get this. Are you surprised? Remember early, before the season started, how highly thought of Quinn Ewers was?
Yeah.
Are you shocked that he's like the hiccup now?
You know what's funny?
It's incredible.
Who was I comparing him
I'm like,
to?
he's not that bad. Just don't have him throw it downfield 65 yards every time. Just play catch.
Yeah, if Steve Sarkisian could kind of...
You don't always have to get vertical in the passing game.
No, if he could control himself at all, it'd do Quinn Ewers a lot of favors.
It's like, I don't know, man. They got this Ewers guy at quarterback, and Manning's the. I'm like, wow, we've gotten to the point with this team where Ewers is the problem.
What are they? I mean, what are they going to do with Ewers next year? Is he going to the draft?
Do you not remember? Hypothetically, we're like, I bet you, the way Sark would have it is he'd bring Manning along slow, and Ewers would declare for the draft. We were having those conversations in the offseason.
Yeah, preseason.
And now we think this dude is a liability.
I don't know that he's a liability.
Yeah, I think that's a little harsh.
It's a little aggressive. His numbers are pretty good. Like, he's been pretty good. I think sometimes they don't do him a lot of favors.
Nobody gets inside the numbers like we do.
Well, I'm just saying.
I mean, is it really only 50 touchdowns and 9 interceptions for Drew Aller? I think we need to get inside that.
I think we need to watch some tape and see how many of those the refs saved him on, like they did last night. Because that dude,
no, you did.
That dude was real close to having a bad 3-pick game. And then that 12 for 23 for 135 yards all of a sudden looks even worse. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We've got Mike Sautter coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by our friend Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NEBPreps. What's going on, Mike?
Sorry, I was taking a drink of my coffee. Second cup of coffee so far this morning. So
all black, right?
No. I mean, I don't mind that, but I do. I have one particular coffee creamer that I like. So, what's that?
The caramel?
Yes, caramel is it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Like real caramel, or like the butterscotch knockoff they call caramel?
No, it's it's whatever. Wide Awake is the brand, and it's like vanilla caramel, whatever. Something.
Do you make your own coffee? Oh, of course you do. You're cheap. You make coffee, right?
Yeah, I mean K-Cups. Yeah.
What's your go-to brand?
Oh, Dunkin' K-Cups are the
Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Sautter, what's wrong with all black? Coffee.
Oh, nothing. Nothing. If I'm at a gas station and I want 99-cent coffee, which I'm not a coffee snob, I will just go ahead and get it straight black.
Oh, so for you, coffee is like just the functional part of it. Taste is a bonus?
Yeah, like the people. Okay, so hung out with my wife all afternoon yesterday because she had the day off because markets were closed.
So funny.
And she goes, let's go, get some coffee. And she ordered something that was like almond milk, decaf with something else. And I'm like, just get milk. Like, what are you doing? This is like, it didn't make sense. So yeah, I don't discriminate when it comes to coffee. Bad coffee is still coffee. So, and I would drink.
So my guy, Benny Mack, who's of age, didn't start drinking coffee till 2 years ago, and he drinks it every day now. I think like how quickly that came on as this addictive component. I'm shocked every time he tells me that story.
I think another one of our friends did that same thing.
Who's that?
The Husker women's PA guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Late in the game, coffee drinker.
I believe just a few years ago, and now he's like all in. I think.
You know what? I think that sounds right.
I'm pretty sure that's him.
Maybe it's the strawberry blonde thin on top thing.
A lot of strawberry blondes, late bloomers on coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. His butter's going bald too.
Sautter, are you
except your hair was never red.
Are you strawberry blonde underneath all the baldness?
No, it at this point, the hair that I do have, if I did have it grown out, it would be very gray on the sides, and the little bit up here would be probably a little bit of salt and pepper.
Oh, interesting. So, premature gray guy.
Sautter, I know we had a conversation with our friend, was it Cody yesterday?
Commander Cody.
I know you were out at the wrestling events last night. How was that?
It was awesome. Like it was packed as far as, for wrestling's concerned. Like the Hurrdat Center prep was probably 2/3 full.
Nice.
For a high school wrestling duel, that's impressive. And the entire prep student section was full. Up the middle, I guess, not the side. So, and they were loud and into it. It was a lot of fun. Wrestling has this like place in my heart, like way deep down that I enjoy going to and watching it and covering it and all that stuff. So it can maybe get confusing for some people. Like, wait, this guy's supposed to be a basketball person, but yeah, I enjoy wrestling and it was a good time. I got to get the photos out, like edited and stuff still, but I'll get there today.
Do you like? So I notice this at wrestling sometimes, except for like Metro, but a lot of the duels and the competitions, lighting is like a big thing, right? It's like practically watching wrestling in the dark, and it's kind of this thing. It sets the stage. Do you wish, or could you ever see like metros or state creating a similar atmosphere when it comes to lighting in wrestling competitions?
I'm one for just turn the damn lights on. So like that's me. Please turn the damn lights on. Okay. Like this was cool 10 years ago.
But it's truly a thing. I just wonder, like, if on the big stage, like, will you see that happen?
I doubt it. Because there's too much going on. There's too many matches going on and whatever. So I doubt it. As someone that was very much attempting to take photos in the dark last night, it was hard. So please turn the damn lights on.
I mean, the Lakers, I've seen some NBA teams like tinker with the lighting on the floor, and it drove me insane. And it was like, it came and went. Wrestling, it's just a thing.
Right. And I get it. I get what they're trying to do. They're, spotlight, whatever stuff, but just, can we please turn the lights on? Like, just make it normal a little bit.
Cider Center was rocking. Were you surprised that, those two teams, as deep as they are, that it went the way that it did?
I was a little surprised. I thought it'd be close. The one, there's two matches that were, I guess the pivotal ones. Strange for Scott getting a pin was huge for Scott. And then Riley Johnson went up a weight class. He's ranked number 1 in B, and he beat JT Smith from Prep, who's ranked number 1 in A. And Johnson went up, 10 pounds basically, and won with a kind of last second-ish or last moments takedown. So that was a really good match. It was really cool. And frankly, anytime you can see Cade Ziola just go out there and do what he does, it's really impressive to watch him. So it was pretty fun.
He just continues to dominate as he gets bigger, which I still think, especially even watching last night, I still think the key to his game, though, is his length and strength. I think it's very, very you look at his frame and you're like, oh, okay. But then you watch how he uses his length and still is as strong as he is. It's pretty special right now.
Yeah, his ability to just kind of have control, like head control or hand control, and still he's so dang long, he can just
he can keep you at such distance.
Right. And
it reminds me a lot of watching, Darlando, right? Hill over at West.
Yeah.
His length and how he was able to approach wrestling. This is 6-7 years ago, but like can just keep you at bay, but he's still strong and he can control the match from distance because he's just long and strong.
Yeah, Cade he
wasn't as offensive minded as Cade is. But,
right. Cade's always attacking, always coming after you, always attacking. And he can just reach down and just snatch your ankle from the ground and just you're done. Like there's nothing you can do about it. So he's as dominant as they come. He deserves all the credit praise he gets and all that. When he gets to Nebraska and he is at a heavyweight and with his quickness, he's going to be pretty good down the road. So, and I know, just knowing him, I know he just works his tail off. So I think he's going to be a pretty dang good heavyweight when he gets to college.
There's going to be a lot of stories to tell at the end of wrestling this season in 2025. Is it even possible for Tyson's the wins, the quickest, all the records, the potential 4-time at the heavyweight? There's no way that's like not the story with all the great stories, is because I feel like we just kind of assume, and so it doesn't get its due.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be, if he can finish out the year undefeated, which he's the heavy favorite to do so, he'd be the first ever 4-timer that was a heavyweight and undefeated heavyweight at that in his high school career. That is remarkable. It's amazing. It is the biggest wrestling story in the state as far as high school is concerned, and maybe even bigger than that. It's the number one story. And then you have, Lordson going for 3 and as dominant as he is at Bennington. I mean, there's a lot of storylines, but the number one, without question, is Tyson Terry. There's no doubt about that.
We're talking with Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NEBPreps. Sautter, as you where are you out this weekend? I know you said you actually got to hang out with your wife yesterday, so I assume that's not going to happen at all over the next few days.
Well, you got a little mini break with holidays like Metro, but now we're back on high school schedule.
Yeah, what's your schedule this weekend? Where are you going to be at?
Yeah, I'm going. So my game of the week is tonight, Lincoln Southeast at Southwest. I haven't seen any team from Lincoln play high school basketball yet, so I'm kind of excited to go there. Rivalry game should be good guard play, all that. And then tomorrow I'm back at Omaha for South Dakota State versus Omaha. And then if I can get out of Baxter in time, I'll try and catch Elkhorn North at Scott Boys at 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. I'm not sure I can make that.
We've watched youth basketball forever, so you're maybe not surprised, but are you at all at how quick? And we didn't mention Northeast, that Lazaric has been so good this year in terms of establishing his prowess as a player in Lincoln.
It's the right fit, right coach, all that stuff. Lazaric Houston at Northeast right now. Coach Ritchie just lets him kind of go, be him and do him. He was awesome the other night. I know Jacob was there the other night at 40 or something like that in overtime win over Southeast on Tuesday night.
A big win. Southeast I thought Southeast may put the stranglehold on Lincoln.
Yeah, it's a really big win for Northeast. And Lazaric, I don't think this is going out on a limb by any stretch, but either him or Lee Robinson's probably the best point guard in the state right now. Lazaric's just scoring.
They do it vastly different ways.
Right. Lazaric's scoring ability and ability to get to the rim basically whenever he wants is definitely a thing, right? And Lee is just now kind of turned himself into that defensive guy where like he's kind of the shutdown guy. Lee Robinson's hands are so quick and his instincts are so good. And I think, that going back to maybe the spring, like that's probably where the Chucky Hepburn comparison is a little bit, just because they're both so good on the defensive end, and their instincts and quick hands and stuff like that when Chucky was in high school. Well, Chucky's still doing that now, but yeah.
The comp I gave him just because of, and I wouldn't say offensive struggles, but the lack of consistency of wanting to score the basketball. I thought Caleb was the comp defensively because he had those amazing hands. He would play passing lanes. He always got the toughest score. He got him as a young guy. Like Lee's anticipation to play passing lanes and pick balls off clean is incredible, and he kind of saps your spirits in terms of wanting to handle the ball. Like he's just dogged.
Yeah, the Caleb one, that's really good, Damon. I should have thought of that. Like the Caleb, because Caleb hell of an on-ball defender. I guess he still is, but just different sport. So that's really good comparison. Now that I think about it, I should have thought about that more, but yeah.
So they got the one loss, and Papio, listen, a heck of a game, and Westside's got to execute late. If you're playing the long game in a wide open A in that top half, who has the most room for growth?
Phew. It's really wide open. Like Prep Westside rematch, I guess, is tonight at Prep. That environment's going to be really good. Geez. Is it maybe Millard North? Because you haven't seen their best yet?
I think they're underachieving. The easy answer would be like, oh, yeah, they're underachieving. But maybe we could have overvalued some guys that needed to play in key roles.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like, what if I told you? What if I told you it was Bellevue West?
Ooh, well, that's because they're way ahead of,
and they're young.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're way ahead of where they kind of should have been, or we thought.
Been brutal.
Yeah, like I mean, they're playing.
Just talk growth.
Yes, from a growth. Haven't even seen what the team can be potentially down the road. Bellevue West is it because of like those guys like Morrow, who had 7 threes in a Metro tournament game. They haven't played varsity basketball outside of a month. So
Keaton?
like, yeah.
I said Keaton. I mean, like
Melcher, yeah.
Yeah, those guys, like, they got some room for growth. And that's all Coach Klein needs, right? It's like, fudge.
Yeah, Coach Klein has done a terrific job with that group. A terrific job.
And it's in Wheelhouse, too, because he likes teaching. So he gets young guys.
Yes. I mean, Ravi Garcia's been the man there, right? And he's still going to be the man there. But the other pieces around him have been just stepped up a ton. Like James is Tristan, right, has stepped up a ton. He's really quick. He can get to the basket and all that stuff. So, Bellevue West might be that. We'll see. You know, can Papio South continue that momentum? They have a little like a 5-ish games here that can be a little dicey. And Westview maybe like Amir Martin is only played a couple games now for them, and getting him over has helped add a little size, especially in shooting at that guard spot. But Taven Zephyr Murphy's been fantastic for Westside also.
Talk about the fluorescent green light.
Yeah, they just kind of let him do whatever he wants.
He's a little of everything. They have better balance, I think, than the scouting report gives them credit for too.
Yeah. Not a lot of size. I mean, John Sims is a guy that can get some shots. He's a little guy, but he can kind of create a little bit and get a shot.
Oh yeah, really. So it's like they got some. They got a couple different ways they can get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the size thing. No one has size really like at all outside of Westside. Westside looks. I said this, and I think Coach Simons brought this up to me. And when I went to practice, and it's true, they look like a small college team, just like getting off the bus. So you have, London Dada's, he's got to get a little tougher, right? And his ability to shoot and make shots and stuff is awesome. His future is very bright, but he can't just kind of disappear in games either, like he kind of did in that Metro final. So Emery Geddix played fantastic for Westside too. So. Yeah, I mean, and then tonight, Trinell Parker him or Robbie or Derek Rollins, they're probably the most dominant sort of, I guess, air quotes, big guys in Nebraska this year so far. And big is relative, right, in this conversation because there isn't any like 6'9" dudes walking around.
Is it more fun to cover as that it's wide open without like the super duper star power at the top?
Yeah, and I said this and a couple people like gave me pushback on it. In our Jacob and I got together on Monday. Like when I say there isn't the stars, like from individuals, I mean, there isn't like the guys going power conference level stars to play college basketball. So what that means is the games are going to be the stars. We learned that at the Metro tournament. How competitive was that? Like the games were so competitive. I wouldn't say they were great games every game, but they were really competitive. So the games will be the stars this year, I think, down the stretch, just because the games will be so good and like close, and environments should be good, and you never know, you don't know who's going to win. The last 5 years, we kind of knew, hey, these 2 or 3 teams are kind of at the top and it's everybody else. Well, right now we don't know that. Like, especially in Class A, we don't know. I think for sure the top 8, maybe 12, any given night they could beat each other, and that's fun. Like, that's what makes the games the stars.
Mike, you mentioned Rollins there, and then earlier we kind of talked about Miller North a little bit with maybe teams with the most room to grow. But I'm kind of curious, what you know, you and DB both kind of said that we might have just missed with Miller North, right? What was it that we would have missed on? Because obviously we know about Rollins, but is part of that miss just, hey, a field was so open you had to pick somebody to start the season, or like what would that miss be?
I think they brought back so much from a team that, you know, made the state finals and has been in the state championship the last handful of years. Derek is one, and then they added Corian Gatlin, who is a scorer, you know, point guard guy. I think the missing pieces, and I've said this before, and I've told people on their coaching staff, they just need to be tougher, frankly. Like, that's the easiest thing. Like, they need to find a way to have some toughness, 1, rebounding, 2, defensively, and 3, have a little adversity, which they've had, like, frankly, you know, losing 3 games in December, and to fight through it and battle a little bit. They just are not, they haven't done that yet. And I don't know, you know, and defensively, like at the guard spots, like who's that person? They have some young guys that I think they are trusting more, and will, as the season goes, that are really athletic, but that maybe they get in. Maybe it's a Jack Chambers guy who's pretty tough, plays really hard. Like, he probably needs to maybe play a little more.
All right, Jerome. So you're on the road tonight.
Yep.
Good on you, getting around. You didn't pick the obvious, going to Westside Prep. Are you sending? Is Jacob going to opt to go to Westside Prep? What do you think?
Probably. And then I know, you know, we'll have, our big game chain tonight is Prep Westside. So we'll have a handful of people there, videographers, all that stuff. So I'm not sure who's going tonight because we got a lot going on with Supernovas and college stuff and all that, like hockey and everything. So yeah, and then I'm going to, you know, South Dakota State, and Omaha is tomorrow. It's a big game.
I was really happy to see them lock Kansas City up the way they did. I was telling Ravi, if they can get stops in that conference, that could go a long way. And in my mind, KC, they just continue to underwhelm.
Yeah, it was like Omaha. I said in my post-game stuff, I wrote it after the game. Omaha just dominated them, like physically, mentally.
17-2 run, right? Like,
yeah,
they could never really get in any sort of a good offensive rhythm.
No, and their length, Omaha's length, especially at the wing. Now, Cam Thomas is a guy. Markel Sutton is obviously kind of their, I don't know if their go-to guy, right? Like, is the word, but he's likely their best player. Those 2 guys are likely their best player, and their wings and they're long, and Jayshon Glover coming off the bench, you can throw into that mix too, and they switch everything because they're versatile enough to do it. That'll be interesting. I mean, now big Oscar Clough is coming into town tomorrow for South Dakota State, and that guy is a monster. So that game is very interesting, and it'll be fun. And then obviously I have Nebraska at Purdue just from sitting right here watching it and covering it that way on Sunday morning, which Nebraska, have we moved on from Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
We flooded.
That's Mike Sautter, Hurrdat Sports, NEBPreps. Mike, we'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerome.
More Hurrdat next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska. Place your sports bets. Keep your money over here on the right side of the river. Get to the casino in Lincoln or in Omaha to place your bets. And, of course, check out warhorsecasino.com for all the promotions and house rules. DB, I got to revisit something because people who I think generally are smart keep saying stupid things. And
What are you mad about, Ravi?
I'm mad about the Greg McElroy don't score a touchdown here thing. I can't believe that's even a discussion with anyone.
Is this with Adam? Is this social media?
Yes. This is with our friend that DM'd us. And it's like, no, you got to take that knee. They had Penn State had 2 timeouts.
It's fine.
That's dumb. That's not fine. It's dumb.
So I didn't love the Kansas City Philadelphia thing. Don't do that.
Is Drew Aller Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden?
I was about to, don't do that.
That's not the same thing. There's different rules for Patrick Mahomes than for everybody else.
True.
Everybody else.
True.
Yes, if I'm the 49ers
but
in the Super Bowl.
He's a Chiefs fan, so it's in his Rolodex.
Okay, him of all people knows.
But I
know.
wouldn't. So all I needed to it's fine. Was there any anxiety in him kicking that kick last night?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay. Did McDonough have to kind of hang on to the call to see if it was going to bend back?
Yeah, because it started right at the post.
Yeah. So I mean, anytime that's a thing, you maybe played it too safe. Now it worked out.
Yeah, I don't even know if they played it too safe, but my issue was
if you could score a touchdown and only leave 20 seconds on the
score a touchdown.
Because there would have been I mean, I understand I get it.
I don't even understand how this is a conversation.
I
don't. We're aware of college.
Is that what you're banging away on the
Yes.
Okay.
We're aware of college kickers, right?
You're a very intense typer.
Sometimes I get mad. No, actually, that was about one of our other guys because they went back. Brendan on Twitter went back and listened to the Mick Cronin thing from yesterday.
Yeah,
and he goes, and he brought up a point that I felt was worth answering. He goes, if Dion had said those things, I'd have lost my mind. If Dion had said exactly what Mick Cronin did,
yeah,
and I said, okay, but the source matters, right? It's not that Dion never says anything that I agree with. It's all the other stuff that he says that makes it feel like utter BS when he says the things I agree with, right? He'll pay some lip service to things that I'm like, yeah, in a vacuum, him saying that, I agree with. But it's all the other stuff that I think he's a phony, right? Mick Cronin, if he's talking about offensive efficiency or offensive skill development, probably not going to put a ton of stock into it. I've seen his teams play for a long time. He'd be about the last guy I'd hire for anything offensive. Full stop. But he was talking about energy and effort. I'll listen to him about energy and effort. His body of work speaks for itself on energy and effort. So I'll listen to him on that. Because you have to be able to be elite at teaching energy and effort to play the way he plays and have almost 500 wins at 53 years old. He's only 53 years old. I don't know if you knew that.
No, he told me.
Only 53. Almost 500 wins, DB.
I listened to a lot of narratives on that yesterday. I mean, it was dominating talking heads. And did you hear his yesterday's presser?
Huh.
It wasn't. He didn't. I'm not even gonna want to be right and say he walked it back, but it was a little different.
Yeah,
and
a little clarifying.
And you know what else I think happened?
What's that?
I think it depends on. I think how we took what he said depends on what you do in your day to day.
Oh yeah, my background.
I
greatly informed
because as I listen to
and then we talked about it off air. My background greatly informed how I took that information from Mick Cronin.
Yeah,
100%. If you've coached at all, you took it differently, and not that you agree necessarily, but if you've coached at all, you took it differently from somebody that's
which
never
is
coached.
Probably why I could ride with 98% of what he said.
And if you've
but then I also went into a leadership
Sure.
I went into a leadership thing too, and I'm like,
Yeah. Where I am more so in a position where if I've told you a certain number of times, I'm willing to say something that may just alienate you and we're done, which is where that 2% that you had a problem with, right?
yeah, because you
don't like doing that.
Yeah, in all honesty, I listened to a coach not vaguely, he was pretty direct. Talk about lack of perimeter blocking for 7 weeks. And it still took somebody different to come in and actually change that.
And
so when you said, well, if it's not the first time that those guys have heard it, then da-da-da-da-da, I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, if it's gone on this long and it's been perpetuated by you, but you tell me that you're good because of what you've accomplished, then there's a disconnect there. I just didn't see any other way to spin that, because once he set himself aside from what else was going on around him, then in essence was like, look at my body of work. It's everybody else. I didn't think that was reading into that. I didn't think I was assuming he said anything he didn't really say.
I don't disagree.
So that falls at that falls at his feet, though.
So I don't disagree.
Just like I would say to Coach Rule, if you don't like the perimeter blocking and you've talked about it for 7 weeks, that's a you problem. And now he could have come back and he could have been like, DB, look, man, I'm working on it. I got a guy coming in here that's going to fix this essay, or to go Tim Verghese, fix this stuff. What?
No, but at the same time,
you know what I mean?
No,
and he did.
I agree. But let's say he didn't bring up Dana, right? And we'll use your example.
Bring in?
Yeah, let's say he doesn't bring in Dana.
Okay.
And he goes, hey, I've been working on this. What if he says to you, hey,
he is in Coach Rule?
Yeah. What if Coach Rule says to you, hey, we've been working on this. I've been talking to them. Look at what I've done everywhere else. This is going to be fine. Or this is going to get fixed. Look at what I've done everywhere else. This isn't on me. We got to work on this.
Fantastic. I'm glad that's a very fair, legitimate Ravi-esque type question.
I do it every once in a while.
Okay. What was the question that I asked him sitting at the 50-yard line in our 8-day sit down at Memorial Stadium when I said, hey, if you fancy yourself a lifelong learner, which
he does.
He's self-proclaimed. How do you not let what you've already done and you've already accomplished creep in to been there, done that when you're here in Lincoln? That was one of the first things that I asked him, right?
You
can vouch for that.
It was.
To keep comments like that from happening.
But.
Okay.
He has also said.
He is in Coach Rule.
Coach Rule has also said, hey, I've done this before. Maybe not in these exact words. I've done this before. I know this works. It just takes a little time. He said something essentially like that.
So I'll help you, even though I don't agree, because I don't want to see you squirm.
Okay.
He said, I've done this before. You guys haven't won in a long time. Let me do my job.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And he also said, in a similar vein, he basically said, this is what you get with me.
Yes.
It's a process.
This is what you signed up for when you hired me.
So
as opposed to someone else.
So yes, he did acknowledge those things, but he didn't say what you just said he said.
No, but that was the essence of what I was trying to get.
Right. But what did he do though? See, he owned it to fix it.
But he still learned.
That's on me. Yesterday, your guy seemed to cut it off.
Here's the difference that I would make with Cronin.
Okay.
And I said this yesterday, and I still think it's true. Now, was it the best example or the best way of him to say it? Probably not.
I love the fact you will not give in.
Oh, no, I 100% think I'm right here. I can understand the interpretation you have. I really can.
Yeah.
That's just not how I took it.
I love how you passive-aggressively say interpretation. I played the clip over and over and over again, and I'm like, how many things do you think this can mean?
I think it can mean a couple different things. The thing that I think it means is he was using that not to set himself apart, but just an example as why he shouldn't be the hungriest dog in the room.
Okay.
That's all I think he was trying to do.
Look at my career.
I shouldn't be the hungriest one here.
Look at my career.
Unlike the rest of you, I've actually accomplished something. I shouldn't be the hungriest one here.
Yeah.
Hey, who do you think wins tonight? -6, Ohio State.
I'm taking the horns, baby.
You heard it here first. DB loves Texas.
Taking the
Chargers -3 versus the Texans.
Oh, give me the Chargers.
Chargers Steelers, Ravens. That number's still 9.5.
I like the Steelers.
Taking the Steelers. All right. Buffalo
it's too many.
-9.
Oh, give me the Broncos.
Broncos. You like Broncos in the money. Packers, Philly -5.
Give me Philadelphia.
Commanders, Buccaneers -3. DB.
Commanders may win.
Commanders straight up.
Could win.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Matt Vrzal coming up next. Wrapping up the show here on a Friday, as we always do, with our guy Matt Vrzal, former Husker owner, Pies.
Technological. Hi, Maddie. Whoa, what's the... He ain't happy. Maddie, how you doing, buddy?
I don't know if he can hear us.
No, he's adjusting some of his levels.
Oh, gotcha.
Look at his eyebrows. What a wackadoodle. Maddie, can you hear? Just thumbs up. Okay, he can hear me. Oh. Shane, is that interference on our end or his?
Well, I mean, we did just have Sautter on.
Oh, that's true. Hey, talk, Maddie. He hasn't even moved his lips. Can he hear?
I can give him a call.
Yeah.
All right, give him a call.
Why don't we give him a call, Shane?
What was the... I'm afraid to recreate that movement. But I
Well-
feel it was offensive.
It's offensive. He was about to flip you off.
Oh, where he was cranking
yeah,
his
he was
finger.
cranking the...
Yeah.
Which I think you can do on YouTube. I don't think we had, I think that would have been okay because it doesn't go out over the air, over the.
And our stream people are not. Like,
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
they've local bobbed us the bird, and we let Tim cuss too. So
Thought we were just gonna pretend like that didn't happen. Just let it ride on out.
Dad said if you can.
I don't think that's right.
No.
I don't know. I don't think that's legally how that works with the FCC or anything like that. I'm not sure that's what we're doing. Also, I'm not really, people in the chat are be like, hey, I didn't hear that as Mick Cronin being real humble. I didn't say he was being humble.
I got a question though. Maddie, do we have Maddie?
Matt's here.
Hi, Matt. Hey, Matt, I have a question. I'm glad I can still see him too. That's awesome. Hey, so I know I'm running the risk because, like, you'll say anything and you'll be like, oh, don't be so sensitive. Did you listen to the Mick Cronin interview? Okay, Shane. So you know the context, okay? This isn't a leading question. I'm just gonna get. I don't know what he's gonna say. Shane, can you play the clip that you cut up? Matt, what does this mean? What does this mean to you, Matt?
I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I mean, I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53.
What do you hear relative to what he said when a coach says that? What do you hear?
Frustrating. But that's you created it. Now, what's failed you before the got you is that high school, well, it's basketball. This is a dumbass AAU coach. Told they were great, didn't give me structure, didn't give me discipline, didn't teach me concept, didn't teach me defense. So now he's got to pick up all these pieces. Now, he's more pissed at himself because he's recruited all of them. Like, he got sold a bill of goods. Most of the time, the college is the one selling you the bill of goods. He got sold a bill of goods by whoever got him to play.
So you didn't hear. So you're just gonna let him off the hook by like, I don't need to do anything else. Like, what does that mean? What do you mean you don't need to do anything else?
That's my work. I've stood the test of time. I've exhausted every option with these dudes. It is what it is. I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying what he's saying.
So your team Ravi on that one.
Yeah, I think he's done the work that he has shown has been successful in the past. And just with this group, it's obviously not resonating for whatever reason.
Well, but here's the thing, though. You won games.
Yeah.
Like how many trophies you put in there. Like, if you want them to really listen to you, you ain't got no trophies.
Yeah, that's
right.
So. Yeah, he opened himself up to be critiqued. Like I said yesterday when he said, "I don't need to do anything else." Really?
But a lot of the like gangster style coaches, like Cronin's hard on them.
Yeah.
But they're just fed up with it. They're fed up with the prima donna. They're fed up with the money guy. They're fed up with the agent. They're fed up with all of it. He's just, honestly, I think the thing with him that he knows is coaching the way he wants to coach is over. And he doesn't know if he can finish. So this might be the end for him.
Verge, do you think it's
well, somebody did ask yesterday, and I thought it was interesting, where somebody asked me in the chat, they said, what if Saban would have said the exact same thing before he retired?
Yeah.
And I'd have been like, oh, it would have made more sense. It sounds weird. It sounds weird, but it would have made more sense.
Respect for the game and for Alabama and all that stuff. Cronin's an Ohio guy. He don't know. You think I don't care? I don't care less than I do.
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah. I mean, that ain't the amount of S's he gives is negative.
Go ahead.
Well, Verz, I was just going to ask, do you think his way of coaching isn't, and maybe it's different with basketball, but isn't viable long-term, or just not with the types of guys he's recruiting, right? Because we're kind of seeing it at Rutgers right now where, like,
with Peichel?
We feel like Peichel is a guy that can coach hard and get that out of guys, but then he's got these super high-end recruits that are going to.
He's got 2 top 5 NBA picks, and the season
all
has been
and all of a sudden they're terrible. Like, is it just about, hey, some of these guys that hear they're great their whole lives just aren't going to deal with coaches like that anymore?
It depends who your resistance is from. Okay, so if like your great player is the one that is like most willing to take Brady and Belichick. What's the one common thing all those old Patriots say? Brady got it worse than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like he got it worse than everybody. So if your best player can take criticism and can take hard coaching, can take all that, then you're fine. But obviously I don't even know who's on UCLA's basketball team, so I really don't care. So I don't know who his best player is, but obviously he and the best players on the team are having a rift because they're the ones that will lead the pack. When your best player takes criticism as your hardest worker, you'll be really good at stuff.
You know what it is, Matty? So, listening to you guys process through this again on day 2. I'm mad at Cronin that he's not holding himself accountable, because I listened to Coach Rule for 7 weeks say he didn't like the perimeter blocking, and he'd talk about it once a week. Well, the perimeter blocking continues to be bad, and especially. And he didn't absolve himself from it, even though it took a while. He eventually fixed it by bringing in new people. So I just think in my head, there's a better way to handle that you don't like what's going on other than to remove yourself from the equation. I think that's what it is. That's what bugs me the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I sense the Augie Garrido stuff, because baseball's getting close, is all kind of surfacing back.
Yeah.
Where he talks about, and it's awesome. I sent it to my
it's
nephew.
great. You sent it to me.
I sent it to my nephew, and I was like, he said, I like that. And I just responded back, live that. Like, live that way.
Yeah.
If you want to be good at things, live that way. For him, not putting himself in it, and I agree with you, he should have put himself in there. But when you do that, like, you have to have a plan. And I don't think he has a plan. Like, I really don't. Just from hearing his voice and hearing the way he talks, he's a beaten man, and he doesn't know what to do. And now you're like, well, I got. You know
what's funny? You know what's funny that you just said that is I said to Ravi, I said, I think the whole time that this is going on, Coach Rule is working on how to fix it while he's telling us it's an issue. Right? I think he's like, man, who can I call? Or I've got to do – like, I think he didn't tell us real time. But he just came out and was like, he's like, hey, man, I'm going to hit this guy up and see if he can help us. Because he said that in the press conference, right? He's like, that's how it came about. He's like, I need some help.
But, I mean, not to be blunt, but that's his job.
That's
he's getting paid to do.
See, that's why I'm so mad at. That's why I was so disappointed in Cronin.
What if he just thinks he can't fix it with his group though? Like, what if he's just like, I whiffed on these guys.
Well, that's kind of what Maddie's saying.
I'm gonna have to ride out this year.
That's kind of what he's saying about the bill of goods, right, Maddie?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's come on, man. It's basketball. Like these are more common than they are. Like you just have coaches that will take it.
I don't know. It's kind of trickling. It's kind of trickling into football too. I mean, but let me ask you something about last night as we get ready for tonight. Were you surprised at Penn State's level of physicality without being able to get the win out of it?
No, because that's what they're gonna. That's what they've had a coming to Jesus where that's where they're gonna gravitate to. If their quarterback wasn't a moron, like, I mean, come on, man. That last throw, you got to know the situation. You got to know where you're at. You can't have that turnover. You can't. It just can't happen that way. Like, and I'm trying to make the play. Guess what, dog? That ain't the play. Like, the play is put that thing in the dirt and live to fight another day as you scramble around and try to sidearm one to a receiver that's obviously, like, well covered. Like, he turned into defensive back. He couldn't even make play. So
Notre Dame's ability to not panic was incredible.
Whew. They are their coach, man.
Isn't that something?
They are, but that's what it is. Teams are their coach. Teams are what their coach does. Hey, I hear the music. I got a quick public service announcement.
Yes.
For next football season.
Yes.
On a Tuesday night, if you are driving east from Lincoln to Omaha and you see a VW coming your way and you are in the left lane, you're not going fast enough, that person is going to cut you off after he passes you, then slow down. And he's never made me more proud in my life than at that moment. I was so happy. I was so proud. I felt so good about it.
Oh, man.
And then don't kid yourself. If you're in the city and you're in the left lane, you ain't going fast enough. You're getting passed and cut off too. You're going to get slowed down as well. Just prepare yourselves.
Yeah, whatever.
That's our guy, Matt Vrzal. Verz, appreciate it as always. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Maddie.
See you, boys.
We'll be back on Monday with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.